ability to pause ourselves is absent, and our reactions become impulsive, and that drives us into ever more, sorry, my dogs, ever more difficulty, because we can no longer pause ourselves and contemplate what is going to be the consequences of these choices, or how do I care for myself in relationship to these emotions. Are I getting, is that so far making sense, Valerie?
Yeah, no, that is, especially the part about the emotions, because I've actually been having basically once my dad passed away, all of my childhood emotions about my parents' divorce have come up, and they've been so extremely like unbearable at moments. But, I just do my best to sit with those, and I'm trying to get back to meditation in the morning or just being in nature. I think I was very much like that as a child. I have pictures, that my mom took of me or whoever, and I'm outside. I'm in the backyard with my shoes off, So I'm trying to go back to nature, or just having quiet time to myself before I start my workday, before maybe I have hard conversations, right? So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. So let me translate what I just heard you say. I mean, again, I want to be mindful. I don't want to go too far into any trauma with you because you're driving. So we're just going to keep things very general, okay? Just a casual conversation right now.
Oh, you're fine. I'm home. I'm just kind of getting dressed.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. As long as you're not driving anymore, then I feel a lot safer.
Yeah, no, I feel a lot safer at home too, just discussing these things.
Okay, so what I just heard you share with me is I heard you say, Darrin, the way that I've been working on nurturing and caring for myself in relationship to these distressful feelings is A, mindfulness or meditation, B, being in nature and connecting to a greater kind of presence or a greater whole. And those things are beautiful, beautiful options, right? I would also say that, when we think about Buddhism, right, you have mindfulness, the Sangha, or the teachings, the Dharma, and then also is it the Sangha, right, the community.
Yeah, the triple gem, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha.
Yeah, right. And this is really the same premise that we would work with in therapy, right? Is first you would practice being present with your emotions and offering yourself constructively compassionate interventions in relationship to that. We'll talk about what those are in a moment. The second thing you would do is you would read and study, doing, for example, a wonderful workbook called Mind and Emotions, which is a great workbook to work on to help you become ever more, increase your skill set of being ever more present with yourself. And the third is also recognizing when it's time to reach out for help. And this is generally for people who have experienced trauma, this is the hardest part. Because when they needed help, they weren't allowed to ask for it, right? When we were young and we were in an environment where we were traumatized, we were not able to ask for the help because our environment that we needed, because the adult self wasn't there. The adults in our environment were the people that really generally in your situation, Valerie, were greatly perpetuating the abuse. And so because of that, you were unable to ask for help. So that third leg of trying to figure out when and where and how to ask for help for ourselves can be very difficult. And this is the part that's really good news in what I read from your history, Valerie, because reading your history showed me that you never gave up on asking for help. And that's huge. Are you with us?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. That's absolutely huge. And it shows me that intrinsically you know how lovable you really are. that you underneath all of the, excuse my language, Venerable, all the, I can't do it. I just can't.
You can
curse.
say
All
bullshit. You can say the F word. You can say whatever word. The Buddha gave permission for us monks to use those language to relate to the people. So go ahead.
You can tell the rosiness in my cheeks. It's hard to allow myself permission with Venerable here, but all the shitty things that happen to you, there's a fundamental thread in your consciousness that knows that you are worthy of love, belonging, and connection. And that is the part that we need to focus on more. Mm-hmm. That is the part that we need to amplify, right? We need to take that, it's almost like changing your glasses, right? We need to take that lens that's skewed in the old ways and move it out and put that new lens in. That is not something that happens overnight. And it takes a long time. And we have to also be patient with ourselves. And that's where the idea of this constructive compassion comes in. So what's the difference between constructive compassion and destructive compassion? I'll give you kind of a quick off-the-cuff example, right? Let's say you're driving in your car, you pull up to a stop sign, and there is an alcoholic outside, right? And he's holding the sign and his hands are shaking. He says, I need a beer right now, right? And never mind why you have beer in your car. You roll down the window, you grab a beer, you pop the lid off, and you hand it to him. That's destructive compassion. You've helped him in the short run, but you've helped facilitate his death in the long run. Mm-hmm. Destructive compassion allows us to feel better because we regulate our feelings by allowing the other person to feel better so we don't have to feel uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. Constructive compassion. We pull up to that stoplight, we roll down the window, the guy, I need a beer, and we say, not giving you a beer, but if you get in my car, I'll take you to a treatment center and I'll get you some help. In the short run, right, his mind is going to be highly reactive. Just give me a beer. All I want is a beer. It's no big deal. Rah, 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 right? You're going to feel uncomfortable because he's upset and you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. You put him in the car though, you get him to a treatment center. He gets better. He comes back later and says, oh my God, thank you so much. Hopefully he gets better. Right? Thank you so much. You helped save my life. That's constructive compassion. We need to employ the same modality for you. So what, you just smiled. What happened for you right there?
My father showed me that.
Yeah. And that's the part, right? That's that intrinsic, there's where it is, right? How your father modeled that openness and that compassion, that constructive compassion for you, that encoded on your nervous system, just like all of the abuse did. Mm-hmm. Right?
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad.
Yeah. So I'm gonna correct you a little.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be here if you hadn't learned to integrate the teachings of your father.
Yes. What he has left behind. That's what, honestly, his DNA that I see, my mother is very resilient. And I have a lot more compassion for her than I used to. But my dad, if he was still here, would go miles for my brother and I, would sacrifice himself, which is probably an extreme version of codependency. But my dad, like, he did everything for us. Like, he truly, I mean, I don't know how he did it. I mean, I was in and out of hospitalizations. My brother was incarcerated for I don't know how many years it's been. And my dad didn't ever waver. And I think it's because of his faith. His grandfather was a Baptist pastor of I don't know how many years, like probably as long as I've been alive. And that's the strength that I possess. That's the joy that I possess. Is my dad was very much in touch with his inner child. But like myself, in coming back into studying and following Buddhism, I finally saw not only his suffering, but my mother's as well. And with that, I saw two adults who married each other with unresolved trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me translate into my world, into my language or my mind's sight, if you will, what I just heard you say. I just heard you say that your father's ability to show up for you taught you never to give up on yourself. And that you have always shown up for yourself just like he did.
I did my best to. In moments I didn't.
Yeah. Well, see, right there, you notice that hesitation. What's the emotion that gets in the way of you accepting that reflection from me? I'm curious.
There was a time after my second sexual assault where I continued the abuse. So when you spoke of, little Johnny, somebody saying to him, "I love you," and then being smacked. I was told that by my ex-boyfriend that he loved